Hi, my name is Gary C. Clement, and you're listening to The Gary Clement Show on GTubeNetwork.com. Today on the show, we are privileged to have a gentleman by the name of Mr. Derek Morgan, who made his professional acting debut in the role of Hud in a Chicago production of Love Rock musical Hair, with Michael Butler as the producer. He went on from there to star in Hair in Houston, Texas, and then a gospel musical called Calling All Saints, presented at the Wilton Theater in Los Angeles. But his breakthrough role was Thomas Gibson on Lifetime's For the People, which was heralded for his charisma and unique presence on the small screen. Today, he's here to talk with us about being part of the cast of the BET original series, American Soul, The Soul Train Story. And here he is, Mr. Derek Morgan.
I grew up in New York City, in an area that they used to call Spanish Harlem. It's called Yorkville now. But I grew up there. You know, it was pretty rough when I was coming up. A lot of gangs, it was a lot of violence growing up in Spanish Harlem back in the day. But I wasn't really involved in that. At about 8 years old, a really good friend of mine who was 13 was killed. He was stabbed to death on Christmas Eve, and that was like a major change in my life. It really had an effect on me. And so my mom decided that she would get me involved in the arts. And so she would put me in the summertime. I would do theater in the summer, and I would do theater in the winter during school. And eventually she got me into a radio program, and then it just took off from there. But I did a lot of theater in the summertime, a lot of theater and stuff. And it was on the CETA. Back in the day, it was a program called the CETA program. And that's when what they would do is they would give out money in the summertime for kids to get a job. So my job in the summer was theater, and that's all I did all day long.
Wow.
For the entire summer. And that happened every summer for quite a few years.
Very interesting. Okay. So now, do you ever go back to the area, and visit and see exactly what the progress and what things are doing there now in regards to, our young people?
Yeah, I do. Every year, the neighborhood I grew up in, we have a Father's Day celebration. And so every year I go back for that, and it's huge. All the guys, all the different generations, the old heads, cats before me, guys from my time, and then the guys after me. Everybody shows up, and they bring their families, excuse me, and I get a chance to see people and see the kids and talk to them, and they ask me questions because they've seen me on television and stuff. So and their parents say, "Oh yeah, I grew up with him." So I talk to the kids, and they always, everybody wants to know, how do I get in? So I just try to give them some good advice, But I go back. I go back every year.
Okay. So now, does the program that you were a part of, the acting program, does that still exist? Is that still there? Or?
No. When the CETA program stopped, one of the presidents, I don't remember who it was, when it was over, it just killed all the programs, all the theater programs and jobs. It just killed it all. So I just I auditioned for this woman named Gail Dunmore, and I started dancing. I became a dancer, and I started dancing and stuff, and from there I went from there into radio, and I started doing a radio series. And during that time, I was in music, so I started singing with a group. By the time I got to high school, I started singing with this group, and I was a roadie for this group called Black Ivory.
Okay.
Started doing that, and I just stayed. My mother kept me involved in theater and music, and she just kept me involved, and that kept me off the streets. Because I was surrounded by a lot of negativity, but that actually kept me off the streets. It kept me busy.
I see. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And like you said, what I see too though is that through the radio show that you were a part of, it got you into directing, radio programming, or you can tell us more about that as well.
Yeah, I got involved with WBAI radio, and I used to do a show called Compositions Live, and it was a series, a dramatic series that was set to music. And so what we would do is we had live music. So we have musical artists like Ashford and Simpson came through one time, and there were these other brothers called the Escorts. They came through. It was different people. And on that show, what's his name? Jimmy Walker was an up-and-coming comedian, and he guested on there a few times. And from there, he went on to become JJ, on the Good Times.
From Good Times, right.
And so that's what that show was all about. We had, musical artists would come through and perform on the show during the intermission of the play that was going on. And it was a play that was just aired live on radio, and it happened every week. And I did that for a few years. And that's what got me. From there, I started doing I just stayed involved in theater. But as far as television and stuff is concerned, that didn't happen until I went to Los Angeles.
I see. Okay.
But when I was in New York, go ahead.
No, and so I was going to ask you, just if you could just, go ahead and just tell us about some of the roles and stuff you had an opportunity to play in television and in film.
Oh, well, when I came to Los Angeles, I went to college, and I graduated, and my first role was on a show called Pacific Blue. Pacific Blue. It was the Bicycle Cops. You remember that show?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was on Pacific Blue, and I did that show. That was my first job. My first job was on Pacific Blue, and then I did Pacific Blue. I did Joan of Arcadia, where I was a series regular on Joan of Arcadia. I was a series regular on For the People on Lifetime. I did a few things. For the people. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to remember these things. I did a thing called Judging Amy. I did a film which kind of blew me away. It was one day I was an extra. It's when I was just getting into the business, and I was an extra on this film called Wag the Dog.
I remember that.
So I was an extra on that show, and I was in a particular scene, and this AD came while the scene was going on. The director yelled cut, and this AD came running up to me, and he says, I need you to come with me right now.
Okay.
And I said, what? And I didn't know what he was talking about. So I went with him. We took this long. I was walking behind him. He was walking really fast, and I followed him up to a airplane hangar office. And when I walked into the office, it was Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, and Anne Heche. They were just standing there.
Wow.
And he told me, I walked in the room. They were just standing there talking. And I walked in, and I had, when you're an extra, you don't really get the details. You just do the extra work, and you go home.
Right.
So I walk in. It's Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, and Anne Heche.
Wow.
Barry Levinson was directing. He was standing there. The four of them were talking. So I walked in, and I said, wait a minute, why'd you bring me in here? He says, because you're going to stand right there. So he made me stand in that particular spot, and that's where I stood. And it turns out that was how I got my SAG card.
Wow.
My Screen Acting Guild card. And I had a scene with Robert De Niro, became friends with Dustin Hoffman. It was amazing, man. That just blew me away. I worked on that show for about 3 days.
Wow.
And
very good.
That's how I got my card. That's how I got my professional card, And from there, it just kept going.
Cool. Okay. So now you're working, like I said, in television, for a project and stuff on BET, in regards to the Soul Train story called American Soul. Just talk about being a part of that, please.
Oh, wow. Well, when I got cast, and I played Don Cornelius's father, and at the time in the show, he has Alzheimer's disease. Mm-hmm. So right in the scene I did is when right when he starts to lose his memory and he doesn't recognize his wife anymore, and he's becoming more and more invalid. He can't do anything for himself. Mm-hmm. And working with the actor who plays Don Cornelius was special because we connected right away. Right away we connected, and we were able to, he had me. Some real feelings were happening in the moment that we had. It was kind of a quiet moment. He ended up feeding me, because I couldn't feed. His father couldn't feed himself, so he had to feed me and all that. It was a nice moment, man. Really nice moment, and I felt like I was part of something big because it's. Mm-hmm. The show and the writers is well written and it's a series, it's so much information about that shit that's coming out about that because it was the life of Don Cornelius and everything it took to get him to where he was, where he became Soul Train and developed Soul Train. Soul Train was developed a long time ago. When he used to do these parties. I don't want to give the show away, though.
Mm-hmm. No, I get you, right. So, because I was going to ask you, too, are you old enough to remember the days of Soul Train when it used to come on television?
Man, yeah. Every Saturday at 11 o'clock it came on, man. I was right there watching Soul Train. I was a Soul Train fan. I watched Soul Train every week. The Soul Train dancers were my favorite.
Yeah. Right. I hear you. Cool. So I guess, so going back, just thinking back about, what we saw on television compared to what you all are doing in the movie, I know it's just, just snippets and stuff of those actual years, but how close is it to the actual thing, would you say?
Oh, it's pretty close. It's pretty close. They actually recreate a lot of the performances. And so the wardrobe, everything's pretty close. They used there was a biography with pictures. I don't know what you would call that, but it was a biography written with pictures, and they really they refer to that biography, and they did their very best to recreate the set, the colors. The colors were big, huge. The colors, even the looks of the performances. Now, I didn't get a chance to see any of those performances because I just did my thing, but they showed me a lot of pictures and showed me a lot of stuff. Very nice crew. Wardrobe department was excellent. Very nice people. They were very friendly and open. It was a rare experience to be working on American Soul because it wasn't a lot of tension like you feel when you're on certain sets. Right. There's a tension. Everybody's just dead serious. But these people were friendly, open, affable. I had a great experience there.
I see. Okay. Very good. Very good. So any lessons about life, I guess, that you actually took away from being part of that?
Oh, it really helped me as an actor to focus. Because, listen, I don't know the first thing about what Alzheimer's patients go through, and so as an actor, I had to really focus. I mean, I shut myself down from in my life so I could focus, and it taught me a new discipline of how to focus on a role and how to go deep inside myself and pull a character to the surface and make it believable. See, the idea is people have to believe it. It's not just acting and being on television. To me, it's a lifestyle of learning behavior and emotions, and it's also technical, how you place your voice and your staging and how you carry yourself. All of it comes into the role and being believable. You have to be believable. You can't be telling lies. People say, "Oh, you're an actor. You can lie." I said, "No, actors don't tell lies. Actors are truth tellers. We're not liars." Mm-hmm. You can't be a liar and be an actor. Doesn't work.
I see. Okay.
And I walked away with that. That's as a greater sense of self, of what it takes to
right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay.
to bring out those qualities that are believable.
I see. Okay. So it sounds like to prepare for the role, like you said, your character actually had Alzheimer's, so you really did have to do a lot of homework in a sense to try to get ready to, portray this role.
Yeah, I did. I did a lot of homework. Yeah. We have YouTube now, and we have Google. And a friend of mine who works at a vitamin shop in Buckhead, he had a connection with some Alzheimer's patients in the hospital. So, I did a lot of work because, listen, I mean, you got some roles, if you're playing a waiter, you don't put a lot into that. You just make sure you remain in the present, constantly in the present. But when you're doing something like Alzheimer's, you have to, it's a mindset. Well, for lack of a better way of saying it, it's a mindset. You have to find that. And so I did some research. I did some work.
I see.
I really did. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So advice to up-and-coming actors, actresses, other people that want to be in the business, what's your advice to them?
Oh, wow. Well, the first thing is education. I'm big on education. I think you should go and study. If you don't go to a university, where I went to university and I got the real foundation, the theory of acting and the theory of performance. But I feel that every person who wants to get involved should get involved first by training, learning the classics, understanding classic writers, going all the way back to the Greeks and the Romans and bringing it all the way up to the present. Study, read a lot of plays, and most important, get involved in. If there's community theater, get into the community theater and work at it. Do the work first before you go jumping out there and wanting to get into television, because those mediums are based on the stage, especially TV. Like sitcoms is like watching a stage play with 3 cameras. So that's a whole different animal altogether. But stage is where you prepare, where you learn how to present yourself and the staging of it all, understanding placement and voice placement and movement. Those things are what you learn when you learn the theory and when you go to a good actor training program. You learn movement, and you learn voice.
I see.
Those are the foundation and the basis of what an actor is. His body is well tuned and he's able to move, and his voice centered, strong, and you know how to use your voice so you don't lose your voice. It's very important. People don't really realize that, but it is.
Well, there you have it, folks. That was Mr. Derek Morgan, who is straight from the set of the BET series American Soul, the Soul Train story. If you would like to know more about American Soul, the Soul Train story on BET television, you can visit BET.com. That is BET.com. Well, this has been Gary Clement for the Gary Clement Show and G2Network.com, and we'll see you next time.